Mr. Vice Chairperson, I'm recording.
Saw that.
Nina, I'm recording. Okay. It being the evening of Wednesday, June 14th, and a quorum being present, I'll call the meeting of the Bellingham Conservation Commission to order. Pursuant to Governor Healy's signing of Bill H 3548, an act related to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and is extended by the state legislature in March of 2023. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will meet utilizing the Zoom online option. Instructions and invitations are available at the town website, www.bellinghamma.org. In the event of technological difficulties, remote access is not guaranteed, and the commission cannot be held responsible. Further, moving forward in the meeting, the chair instructs the meeting administrator to withhold access to speak at the meeting until or unless such persons requesting to speak are visible on screen and respectfully request such access. Okay. That being said, I will proceed with the first continuation of public hearings for this evening. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold a continuation of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the notice of intent for the proposal to construct a commercial building with associated stormwater management system located within the 100-foot buffer zone to border vegetated wetlands at Assessor's Map 4, Parcel 72, 455 Hartford Avenue, Bellingham, Mass. Mitch Mesalanka, Goddard Consulting, Northborough, Mass. Has submitted the filing on behalf of Moshe Matthias, Darden Properties, Milford, Mass. The continuations will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, June 14th at 7. So the applicant has requested continuation. They've been meeting with the planning board, and we have a couple of issues outstanding with the planning board. We have yet to receive revised plans. However, it appears that some changes have been made to the east of the property where there was a drainage swale, which is now becoming a walled-in pathway for trucks. And one of the snow storage areas was going to be essentially at a dead end, is now snow storage area that will be blocking fire access. So we're waiting to see the final revised plans. They're dealing with the zone or the planning board right now, but these are issues I think that we will probably bring up at the next continuation. So that being the case, at the applicant's request, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of June 28th at 7:40.
Do we think they're going to be ready, Mr. Chairman? They've been continuing quite a bit.
They have been continuing quite a bit. I can only guess. This is a situation where on the 28th, we can give them 5 minutes and continue them later in the evening based on the track record of continued requests for continuations, if that's your pleasure.
We aren't going to do this continuously, though, correct?
This is going to be a continuous continuation.
Forever.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I propose we give them 5 minutes on the date you suggested.
That being said, I'll send a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of June 28th at 7:40 for 5 minutes.
I'll second Neil's first.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I heard Ariane, okay. I recognize all the voices. By voice vote, it's a unanimous vote. Opposed? Okay. Jeff Curley has acceded to our request to move his hearing up.
Wait a minute, it's Railroad Street.
I'm sorry, it is Railroad Street.
Yeah, Railroad Street.
My mistake.
That's okay.
I'm gonna pass this
Yeah.
on.
Yep. Yep.
And I saw Dan is here.
Yep.
And Mike Bird, the applicant, is here. Fair enough. Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 in the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, on the notice of intent for the proposed construction of a single-family subdivision roadway and appurtenances, including a stormwater management system to support a 6-lot residential subdivision entitled Snet Trail Estates, located within a 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated and isolated vegetated wetlands at Assessor's Map 80, Parcel 9-10, Railroad Street, Bellingham. Dan American, Legacy Engineering, Millis, Mass, has submitted the filing on behalf of Michael Burr, 336 Lake Street, Bellingham. The continuations will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, June 14th at 7:15.
Chairman, members
No,
of the
I'm
committee.
sorry, 7:05.
Dan Merrick with Legacy Engineering. May I share my screen, please?
Absolutely. Neil, can you handle that?
Oh, I can try.
Okay.
Not sure whose screen I should be sharing.
American.
It only gives me a choice of host or all participants.
And we don't want to do that. There's another way to do this. Oh my goodness.
Make me a co-host.
Yeah, I
able to
suppose
share.
that's what we're going to
Yeah,
have to do.
so we can-
Don't abuse your privilege.
I will not.
Okay. You should be okay.
Yes. Okay. So we've had a couple of sidewalks, as you all remember, and we're just about done with the plan revision, but I did not have it ready in time for you guys to have an opportunity to review ahead of time. So I figured I would just come tonight, show you what we have, solicit any comments you might have, so that when I submit the actual product in the next few days, if there's any changes you notice tonight that you'd like, I can incorporate that. So what we have done, as we discussed, I think at the prior meeting, is that we've identified the additional wetland area here that connects the upper wetland, which has been noted on the plan as being an uncertified vernal pool, to the lower wetland. And that's a thin little strip here that's been, those flags have been field located, and that's what you see. And there's a little finger that comes up along that old cart path that heads out towards the river. And what we have done with the road design is not a lot of changes, except at the end. We've taken this cul-de-sac and we've kind of curled it away from the wetland area, that little finger of wetland, to give us more room for this particular home here. And then there have been some minor changes to the stormwater basin design in the corner closest to the wetland, but not a lot really. So what I thought I would do tonight is just kind of go through kind of the main areas that you guys are focused on, and see if you have any thoughts that I need to address, and we'll go from there. Shouldn't take very long. So this is the isolated vegetated wetland. We added that one flag based on our field visit. Nothing's really changed here. We're not doing any work in the 25. We do have some work in the 25 to 50 to get the road in. I know that, Chairman, you made a remark at an earlier meeting that we may need to do some mitigation for that. I was wondering what you thought might be appropriate there.
We could probably do something like supplemental plantings in the area around the crossing.
Okay, yeah. So do some enhanced plantings in here.
You know, if we can, if you can quantify the area and come up with a proposal for supplemental plantings in the area, that would, I said crossing, but I mean,
Yeah,
the road
understood.
location.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I'll include that in my submission package to you.
Okay.
And then the next thing, of course, is the crossing itself, the actual crossing. Right? Did all the commission members come out and see this, Mr. Chairman?
I know that we had, we have to be careful. We did not conduct a meeting, but I think a majority of the commission members were present.
Okay, so just for anyone who wasn't there, basically this wetland is an intermittent flow path. I would say 80% or more of the year there's zero discharge from this upper wetland. It all soaks into the ground because this is all sand and gravel up here. When we get a lot of rain, persistent rain, you'll get an overflow, which comes down this valley right through here. And it comes through here, and then it ends up in that southerly wetland area. So we have a crossing proposed here, and we are going to provide you with a little detail with a replication area. We are proposing a retaining wall on either side of the road to minimize our impacts to the wetland crossing there. And I do have a drawing that outlines this. So this is the crossing. So there's 1,021 square feet of permanent impact to bring the road across. And that includes the road itself, the paved width of the road, plus the grass strips on either side. And then there would be a retaining wall along the edge of the right of way on either side. And then we would just grade into that retaining wall. We have picked out a replication area. The consensus, or my view in the field, was that this particular area is not a very solid wetland. There's no hydric soils. Particularly to the north here, there's not a lot of wetland vegetation. So I don't think this vicinity would be a good place for a replication area. So instead, what we focused on was there's an old cart path, this dark green area down to the bottom left of the screen. It's an old cart path, and it's right next to the wetland. So it seems to me that that is a good location for a replication area. It would be at 2 to 1. And we would basically take the entire cart path, and we would make our detailed decisions regarding grading and elevations in the field, but it would essentially look like this with proposed tree, shrub, and herbaceous plantings. Grass plantings would be a wet mix. We have specified on the plan different types of trees that could be allowed, different types of shrubs that could be allowed, and that would all be subject to the approval of the agent at the time of installation. And this would be a cross section of the crossing, which would be a wall on one side and a wall on the other side. There'd be a little guardrail on the top, the road in between. And underneath, we're proposing to run 2 18-inch drain pipes to allow, when this upper wetland overflows, to allow that water to pass under the road and continue on its way. That is probably twice as much pipe capacity as you'll need. We sized it very conservatively so that there would be no restriction to flow. And there would be a little riprap apron at the mouth of the pipes and a little riprap apron at the outlet of the pipes. Are there any questions or comments on this?
Yeah, I think, Dan, we'll start with the easy stuff. The area for proposed replication, we reviewed in the field and determined that it was entirely appropriate. And we look forward to reviewing the methodology and the protocols that you're going to use to establish that. The wetland delineation that was different from the original filing. We've also reviewed in the field and found to be accurate. I know that there's one thing that we looked at in the field and it doesn't appear, and there may be a reason for it. We requested that you shift the roadway a little bit to the west to take advantage of the most narrow point of the crossing of the resource area. Have you been able to do that? Because I'm looking at the plan and I don't see that occurring. And
So the issue, I'm sorry about the noise. It's we're getting a good thunderstorm here.
yeah, we're getting one too.
The issue with that is that, we have certain upland area requirements for the lots in the zoning district. And these lots are all like right at that boundary, and I don't think we can move it further north.
Could you enlarge that?
Sure. And this area is the area where that log kind of bridge is. That log bridge resides right in here, in this stretch right here.
Yeah. And so these are the upland requirement. Is this the lot definition that says that 90% of the lot area required shall not be under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission?
Correct.
And so you would not.
I mean, I can look to see if we can, but I don't think we can move it more than a couple of feet. We really tried to curl this cul-de-sac in as far to the north as we could while still meeting the zoning requirements for each of the lots for, lot area and upland area and shape factor and all of.
Dan, could you shift that screen a little bit higher? I want to see that lot. Yeah, right there. That's a really large lot. This is 2-acre zoning.
Yeah, it's all 2-acre zoning.
Okay, so you need 40,000. And so that upland area, now there appears to be upland area to the rear of the
Yeah, let me
vernal pool.
pull up the layout sheet.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So
there's lot 5.
what I'm thinking here, this is lot 6. So you need 80,000 square feet. Did you include the area that was to the opposite side of the wetland?
Yes.
That's a big lot.
Well, it's 100,000 square feet, but 20,000, 18,000 of it, 19,000 of it is wetland. So
Okay.
the lot area is 80. There's an extra 2,400 square feet there. There's not a lot of extra room.
Okay.
And with the shape factor, which is very limiting.
Yeah,
Especially
the back portion won't be included.
right, with such large lots, it just becomes very difficult.
Okay. And it's the same thing on the lot 4?
Yeah, the lot area there is 81,000. The zoning lot area is 81,663, where you need 80,000. These lots, I moved the road as far north as I could while, getting all these lots to work.
Okay. Okay. We'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
When we get the full-size plans. It's so difficult for us to work off of, PDFs on a computer.
Sure, understood.
We're old school.
Any other thoughts or questions on the crossing?
Only that if there's anything at all that you can do to minimize the impact, it would be greatly appreciated.
All right, okay,
Um,
I'll revisit that and see if there's another option.
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question.
Michael,
Yeah, so what prevention or what protections can be given to that road where it's raised up? I think you had said, Dan, on the sidewalks of like 6 feet of roughly or 5 feet elevation. From
Right
the,
around 6 feet, yes.
Yeah, so we got a flat road going across with a slight incline up with a log crossing area and tapered down to this wall that's less than 6 feet. There's the grass berm. How wide is that grass berm on either side?
8 feet.
8 feet. So my concern would be that if you're treating that area with salt and or winter snow treatments, ice treatments, that there's nothing to keep it from spraying off the side of the roads. 8 feet is a minimal amount to keep something that's elevated from bouncing out and down. If it was like a depressed area on the road instead, I'd have a little less concern, but it's elevated up substantially and over a period of time, not necessarily one storm or anything. Rocks, a salt spreader or something that's going to be going in there. Is the town eventually going to get this road?
Is the town what?
Going to eventually be expected to take possession of the road and ownership of
Yeah.
the road?
Yeah, so the way the road is graded, it's self-contained. It doesn't discharge runoff outside of the roads, right? You see there's a berm on either side of the pavement, and then the grass strips are sloped into the pavement. So all of the runoff from the road, including the grass strips, ends up in the pavement on the road. And then that goes into our catch basins. And then that gets piped down to the stormwater infiltration basin. So none of the runoff from the road will kind of move laterally. It all ends up in our stormwater basin.
Yeah, no, it's the spraying of a spreader that's going down there that I'm concerned about, sand and salt going off the sides as they treat the road. Not runoff. I see that you've got that tended to, but
I mean, with
It's
a guardrail's not gonna stop it, but you know, if any area that's sensitive on either side of that is probably gonna be affected negatively over a period of time. I don't have a solution. I just want to make an observation.
with an 8-foot wide grass strip, I would be surprised if you saw any significant, throwing of salt or sand that far outside the road. The town doesn't want to waste salt and sand. They want to keep it on the pavement.
Oh, the road's 22 feet wide. They're gonna make 2 passes though. It's not like they're gonna be just in the middle of that road. I don't think.
Well, they may just make one because this is a small road. So with something like this, they may just truck down the middle of the road during the storm and just make a single pass and then turn around at the end and leave and not come back and do another pass.
even if they don't, it's hard for me to imagine that they would be right on the curb edge and following salters down the road. I don't know that I've seen them throw it 8 feet. But
Like I said, part of the concern was just that it was elevated so high above the area. So if it clears the edge, it's not like it's going to land on an area that's still flat beyond that 8 feet. It's just going to go out and down, and then it's into whatever area on either side. Now, again, without putting some sort of additional wall or fencing that's solid on either side, which I don't expect necessarily to do, because we haven't required that of anybody else in town. I just make an observation that was concerned when we were talking about raising the roadway up so much that my first initial reaction was, okay, what about winter time? So just raising it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions on the road crossing area? Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to chat about was we would like to get the tree clearer in here just once. So if the commission's amenable, the limit of work here would define the limit of tree clearing, and then we would be in front of you for every lot for a notice of intent, except for lot 4. But every other lot is going to require a notice of intent, and that would, identify all the specific requirements for the lot development and construction of the lots. But I just wanted to run that by you. I have here, and let's just go through the limit of work we have on the plan so you can understand it, right? So I'm going to start backwards. On lot 6, which abuts the vernal pool, we have a limit of work that runs along the 50, and then it runs along the vernal pool 100. And then on lot 5, we are proposing to do a little bit of work in the vernal pool, the outside edge of the vernal pool buffer, because the applicant doesn't want to have, this is a big hill, and the applicant doesn't want to have a mountain in the backyard of this. This doesn't have to be permanently disturbed. It's something that could be, just regraded and then loamed and seeded and have some trees planted on it. That's what we'd like to do. And then running along the 50, and then we have the crossing. Okay. And then on lot 4, we're not showing any work in the 100-foot buffer to the vernal pool. So as it's contemplated now, lot 4 would not have any work in a buffer zone. And then at the stormwater basin, the erosion control is at the limit of work, the limit of grading. And lot 3 is one that we'd like to talk to you about. You know, holding the 50 is going to make this very challenging. There won't be much yard. Wondering if it's possible to expand this limit of work somewhere in between the 25 and the 50. And then we would come around the crossing. And then again here, we would be running along the 50, and out. The replication area, we would use the existing cart path to access that. We would do all the work. And then we will come out, and then we would take the old cart path that's in this area, and we would clean it up, loam it, and seed it, and let it go natural. Thoughts on that?
No, so your question is, we understand that these lots are gonna require individual notices of intent.
Yeah.
Well, are you telling me you're proposing when you're in there to clear the roadway that you clear the lots up to the 50? Is that what you're asking?
We're asking if the commission's okay with us setting the limit of work here so that all the clearing can be done at once.
Well.
Or is that something that you want to be decided on an individual lot basis?
It's something that we usually decide on individual lot basis.
Okay,
Because, you know, as the lots are developed, there could be minor changes to house locations due to existing site conditions. And we need to be able to address these issues on a site by site, lot by lot basis. I mean, this is my opinion. I don't know what the commission, if they have any additional thoughts. We're looking at lot. I can't read it.
this one's 3.
That's the one, 3. Oh, there it is. Yeah, 3. You know, work, we have on occasion allowed work in the 25 to 50 with mitigation.
Okay.
And so, you know, before you file that, you may want to have an area where mitigation could be provided, supplemental buffer zone plantings, those kinds of issues.
Mhm.
We've dealt with successfully in the past.
Okay.
But you know, individual lots are individual lots. We understand the need to try to maximize the utilities and the subcontractors you're going to be using. But we're looking at 6 different lots that are going to have individual notices of intent. And the commission needs to maintain control over the development of the individual lots on a case-by-case basis. That's always been our policy.
Understood. Okay, good. So if you have any other questions for me, happy to answer them. Otherwise, I would ask for a continuance. I think my next meeting with the planning board is the middle of July. I don't know when your first meeting in July would be.
Well, we only have one meeting in July. And so our next meeting after the second meeting in June, which is the 28th, would be on the 26th. And we could put you on at 7:15.
But before we
Well,
do that, we wanted to talk about the peer review.
Oh, yeah.
Go
Go ahead. No, go ahead. So, yeah, initially, we did not anticipate the need for enhancement or replication or crossings. And so when the scope for peer review was developed, we had an engineering only scope of review. So we're going to need to revise that so that we can have our peer reviewer take a look at these additional wetland area impacts, buffer zone impacts. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna request the administrator to take to interact with our peer reviewer to develop a revised scope. And then your plans will be once that scope is approved, these plans that you're submitting will be immediately forwarded to them so they can commence with the peer review process.
And then that's going to be basically essentially the plans. They're not, are they going to be re-reviewing the field delineation, or is that?
No,
No.
no, we are satisfied with the delineation that your PWS and the commission was able to hammer out in the field. We're
Okay,
fine with
all right.
that.
Mhm.
Great.
That will not be reviewed.
And they'll be reviewing, I know that's conservation aspects you're talking about, but the engineering side will be reviewing these for the planning board anyways, so.
Right.
Okay, so yes, I think then the July meeting is the right meeting, otherwise there won't be enough time for everyone to do what they need to do.
Okay.
You said that was July 26th?
July 26th.
Okay.
So that being the case, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of July 26th at 7:15.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, unanimous vote. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks for your time tonight. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay. I should take a drink of water before I read this one. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the notice of intent for the proposal to construct a 700,000 square foot warehouse facility with associated site appurtenances on a 158-acre parcel located off Hartford Avenue, Bellingham, and identified as assessors map parcels 30-73-1, 24-12, and 31-3. Project proposes temporary and permanent impacts to resource areas jurisdiction for the Wetlands Protection Act of 661 square feet of bordering vegetative wetland, 95 square feet of bank, 561 square feet of land under water bodies, and the 100-foot buffer zone with proposed mitigation, and is located within the riverfront area to Springbrook. The project also proposes impacts to resource areas jurisdiction within the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw regulations, including 28 linear feet of bank, 15,274 square feet of land subject to flooding, bordering or isolated, 651,879 square feet of buffer zone, 39,357 square feet of isolated vegetative wetlands, 82 square feet of land under water bodies, and 2,484 square feet of vernal pools with proposed mitigation. Andrea Kendall, LEC Environmental Consultants, Worcester, Mass. Has submitted the filing on behalf of Jeffrey Curley, Bellingham for Associates, Boylston Street, Chestnut Hill. The continuations will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, June 14th at 7:35. Okay.
All right. Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good evening.
Thanks for having us again and bumping us up in the agenda. That was welcome. Quick question. Are we down a couple members tonight? Is by my guess.
We are down 2 members.
All right. Just for this is the first time they've been absent from our I think, our discussions, right? So this doesn't subject them to being bumped.
Well, there are several ways that could be handled, but right now, they are not subject to exclusion under the Mullen rule. What we usually do, because of the length and complexity of the hearings, we have a follow-up meeting where we do a recap. I think, Austin, you've participated in one or two of these.
Oh, yeah.
And then we can bring everybody up to speed. In our experience, we found that it doesn't serve anyone to try to argue whether or not the participation of a commission member would be sufficient to exclude and overturn any of the work that had been completed during the hearing process. But moving forward, if there's a change in that, we're certainly willing to discuss that.
Yeah, it was more just a curiosity than it was just making sure we were following proper protocols, which we customarily do, so no big deal. Thought what I'd do tonight. So last time we appeared in front of the commission was April 26th, so month and a half ago or so.
Yes.
In between that time, we've been working really hard in the background. Most of those conversations have happened with the planning board. We had a very productive hearing with them on May 11th. The focus of that discussion was largely on kind of the parking that we've been talking about here as well with the commission, and some access considerations as part of Crossroads. I thought what we would do tonight, provided the commission's okay with that, is kind of walk through all our discussions with the board, the peer review team, and what that's kind of led to in terms of an evolution of the site plan. And I think it's an improvement, frankly. What I could do is bring up the plan, how that's been influenced by the peer review and the planning board discussions, have that conversation. And then the next thing I wanted to do with the commission this evening, we've talked about it on a number of our site walks, has been, now that I think the program has kind of settled in a little bit, would be to talk about what we are planning on moving forward with in terms of some additional stormwater test pits, as well as some confirmatory work that we want to do for proposed wetland mitigation areas. Does that seem like a reasonable thing to talk about tonight?
Sure, we can get started. And then, of course, as always, the commission will have a couple of observations, questions.
Oh, of course, absolutely. I kind of want this to be collaborative as it has been. So what I will do, provided you trust me, is bring up my screen here. Let me know when folks can see that, please.
It's blank right now. There you go.
All right, we're good. Okay, so I'm assuming you can see the overall site plan, right?
We can.
Okay, so this is the new plan. I'll show you a comparative graphic. Actually, let's start with a comparison graphic. It's probably better. So what we can see, I'll start up in the upper corner here. The red layout is the original layout that we had started with. And it's kind of how the program started. So you look up here as we're starting. This is kind of that satellite parking area as you're coming in off the main driveway. Obviously, the big building is here, this big gray hatch. The red is the original footprint. What we've done is made this parking in here. And we did that because when we were out in the field, one of our field visits, we had talked about wanting to provide additional separation from this resource area here. And it helps us reduce and compact the impervious footprint as well. So we've substantially reduced that footprint, which I think is a good thing, obviously. What it also, and we'll get into this a little bit later in the discussion, if you recall, this is the area where we were contemplating originally a surface stormwater basin. Right. And as we collectively as a unit have been walking around out in the field, we said, boy, that area feels like it might be better suited as an enhanced mitigation area potentially. Remember, there's a lot of high canopy in there. We noticed some of the leaves were a little bit, this color looks like water maybe flowing through there seasonal.
And we have perch soil.
And we'll talk about what that wants to mean. And yep, and we saw maybe a foot down or so. We saw a potentially restrictive layer, and we were going to do some some confirmatory work in there to figure out what that restrictive layer might be and how that might support a mitigation area. So in consideration of that, what we've done is kind of reduce this footprint. The second area I'll go to is down over here. This has kind of been one of the areas we've spent a lot of time talking about. This is that area on the cul-de-sac, at the end of kind of the access driveway. If you recall, this area down here was, we identified this again as a team as being of importance, obviously. So the red line again is the old parking boundary. The black line here, this is the retaining wall and then edge of pavement. We reduced the number of spaces that were down there, and we pulled it further away by making those spaces more compact. So this blue line here is representative of the 50-foot buffer, reduced footprint, and further away from the wetland system to achieve kind of a balance or close to a balance in the parking. What we did is displace those spaces up here to the top. So just for context, I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole thing. But these spaces and some of what was here went over here. We do have a slight reduction in parking. We're down maybe 14 or 20 spaces total from what we were contemplating originally. And as you recall, Cliff, I think you even mentioned it in some of the sidewalks, the planning board and the peer review team have had a similar sentiment to what the Conservation Commission and our discussions have been, which is, hey, we'd really like you to reduce the impervious footprint of the project. And we did that. And we've worked pretty closely with the peer review team and the planning board and have some alignment with planning board and the peer review team where they believe this is appropriate in terms of meeting the spirit and intent of their comments, as well as being what we've kind of collectively determined operationally appropriate for the facility. So with that in mind, before I pivot into some of what we want to do next with mitigation and some of the testing that we want to do in the field, I'd very much appreciate the commission's input and insight as to what this looks like, what it means, before I get into, okay, what this affords us the opportunity to do in terms of mitigation.
I think that's a good step.
Motion to approve.
Maybe not quite that, that far, but it's a good step, Austin.
So
all right, thanks.
I think one of the questions I have, I'm going to backtrack a little bit here, and I think Brian is on tonight.
Yes.
Or maybe Austin, you can address this, because one of the waivers you're seeking is I think it was like a 1.4 or 1.5 to 1 replication as opposed to the 2.1. And I don't recall the exact number. Maybe Brian.
Yeah, I don't know the Cliff, what you're referring to, just not questioning you, but just for clarity on my part. You're asking what our wetland mitigation ratio would be,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I think, right now, Brian, you tell me if I'm wrong. I think we're 1.6, maybe just trending to 1.7 to 1, I think is where we are right now.
Okay.
What we had talked about, Cliff, in the field too, was finding, and Brian, you step in at any point if I'm misstating anything, was finding kind of the harmony spot between productive and constructive mitigation that's not taken down established vegetative buffer to create a wetland, but also finding areas that were appropriate that could be enhanced. And I think that 1.6 to 1.7 ratio is kind of where we landed in terms of maintaining established buffers and creating new mitigation areas that we thought were viable. But Brian, if you want to elaborate on that, by all means.
No, that is correct. The original proposal mitigation was a 1.6 to 1 ratio with a larger emphasis of creating larger, more sustainable vernal pool habitat at a higher mitigation ratio, but for the overall wetland cumulative impacts, it was 1.6 to 1.
Okay, all right, so now I do recall that at 1.6 to 1. And so the commission has repeatedly stated that we feel that this project demonstrates or proposes maximum utilization of the property, of the site, and that the fact that the performance standard of 2 to 1 can't be met without impacting buffer zones from other resource areas further demonstrates that. And in a previous meeting, I think Mr. Curley said that one of the reasons he wanted to preserve the roadway, not necessarily the parking for the cul-de-sac, was for future expansion or development of an area behind Circle CG. And I think that's in the minutes.
It may be in the minutes, Cliff. I did mention that the town has indicated the desire, conversations we've had with folks from the town, that any future development further south here be accessed through this roadway. But I was very clear, and I watched the hearing again today to make sure. We're proposing these parking spaces. We're trying to meet this parking count to support this project. So there is no, and I think we reiterated in the last meeting that were there to be any proposal further south and an extension of this road in the future, it would need its own filing, would have to stand on its own merits. The purpose the reason we are building these parking spaces and providing a cul-de-sac consistent with town requirements is to support this project. And that's the conversation we've had with planning board and with peer review staff over the last month and a half or so.
And yet our conversations with the planning board indicate that there's still a feeling among some of the planning agents that the cul-de-sac and the parking area are not necessary, that there will be sufficient parking to support the warehouse. But I also heard that you had indicated to them that you do not know for sure what the ultimate use of the building will be. Is that correct?
That's right. These types of buildings, warehouse buildings, are trending more towards what's referred to in the industry as a flex industrial use. We could see multiple end users here. That's the reason for the parking that we require to be competitive in the marketplace of prospective end users. We did analyze and have proposed a warehouse project from a traffic perspective. Again, in concert with working with the town to advance the 126 roadway improvements. We wanted to make sure that we looked at a significant traffic generator here for that purpose. But the potential end users in this building are several, and they're all allowed under the existing zoning, and they do, in order to remain competitive in the marketplace, require the parking to support the building. And that's a conversation we have with planning board back at their last meeting. That's the discussion we've had with peer review staff, and as Austin mentioned, that's what's been reflected in the peer review response, and that was our takeaway from the meeting with the planning board back on the 11th of May. We really only have the one item on the table with them remaining, which is the conversation around circulation through the Crossroads Center.
Well, it's a good thing, Jeff, that I'm not on the planning board, because I would say, how can you plan when you don't know the end use of the building? So I look at this and I go back to the fact that you can't meet the performance standards for replication without impacting other buffer zones. So it's overutilization of the property. That's what I'm seeing. And we've been out there, we've looked at it. You are proposing more alterations to resource areas than we've ever permitted in the past, and you can't meet the performance standards for mitigating that. And the whole reason is that satellite parking area. And so I think what we'll do is we're going to request a definitive answer from the planning board on whether or not they feel it's absolutely necessary. But there is another issue that I'm going to bring up, and that's that we have performed a little bit of work ourselves in the cul-de-sac area. And the commission feels strongly that that area demonstrates hydric soil, and that could potentially be called a resource area in the cul-de-sac. Every time we've gone out there, we've seen standing water, there's hydrophilic grasses, and at the edge of the area where the ATVs go through, there's clearly some wetland vegetation. And we know it's altered through the ATV traffic. However, we have gone back out in the field and we feel that there's sufficient layer of soils that indicate that indeed that in all likelihood is a resource area. So what we're doing is we're offering you the opportunity to just avoid continued evaluation and abandon that. I understand that you'll have to consider it, and it's perfectly acceptable.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Michael,
Has the planning board asked you, Austin, or Brian, or Jeff, to consider, I know you're maximizing space for potential clients, et cetera, but as Cliff has said, maximizing can cause other issues. Have they asked you to come up with a revised scenario, and you would have to define whether it's economically feasible, of reducing the overall size of the warehouse to start with, which would then allow I assume, corresponding reduction in parking spaces, potentially eliminating that entire satellite. And while they may have expressed an interest to you to have that curved road, which goes down to the cul-de-sac, be the way that other site access is down the road, potentially down literally, permitted, rather than creating a new road off of Main Street or whatever, that you could always stop the road at the top of the curve or wherever you needed to, and then build a road in that way down the road. I mean, in the future, if needed. Has the planning board asked you guys to consider that and come back to them with a proposal?
Michael, I don't understand. I don't understand.
I don't
what your
recall any
question is.
discussions.
Hold on, Michael, what is your question?
This affects the environmental aspect as well, but since we're talking about the planning board and getting a definitive answer about the satellite parking, I want to know if the planning board has asked the applicant to come back with a revised proposal of the plan and the site project, which would, by reducing those spaces which they feel are economically necessitated, because as they said, the size of this project, reduce the warehouse size by X many square feet in order to not need those spaces to meet the competitive nature of what's out there. If you have a smaller warehouse, you don't need as many spaces, and thereby eliminate that whole spur at this time.
Okay,
We haven't been asked to
our
reduce.
conversations with town planner Jim Cuffer indicated that he didn't feel that that area was needed at all. And the fact that the applicant has further provided additional parking, as Austin just showed us, would further that opinion. I'm not sure what the planning board has decided, or if they have actually made a decision relative to that. I would certainly like to see something from them in writing, because our conversations have indicated everything to the contrary.
So I think there's a couple things. To answer the original question, the planning board hasn't asked us to reduce the size of the building. That hasn't been a conversation we've engaged in. It's been, that's the size of the building, now let's go work and how does everything fit, how we're mitigating impacts, traffic, obviously this discussion here, and stormwater, everything that's related to it. The only conversation we've had in terms of parking reduction, really been two prongs to it. The first was, can you reduce the impervious footprint in general? That was the impetus behind get rid of the parking. How we've responded to that is as I'm showing on the screen here, right? The peer review team that's been retained by the town did provide a correspondence. I believe that maybe it came up today. I think Jeff was or yesterday.
It's dated Friday. Austin, but we received a copy of it today
So
from planning board
that
staff.
peer review letter, it focuses on the broader peer review, but it does touch specifically on this item related to the parking. And I'm obviously oversimplifying and paraphrasing greatly, but it generally says, hey, we believe this is appropriate and that this kind of meets the spirit and intent of our comment, which is reduction of impervious while still maintaining the appropriate number of parking spaces. So that the other part of this conversation with reduction in impervious was we might be open to the idea of not building those immediately, but we want to permit them in the event they are needed. So we want to go through and permit those spaces. It might be that they don't get constructed immediately. We see how the tenant base fills in. And if those spaces are not needed, at least they can be constructed based on the approvals that we would presumably have. But if they're not needed to be employed based on however this gets filled, then they wouldn't get constructed, right? So I mean, Jeff, you can elaborate if you'd like to, but that's been a topic of discussion with the planning board. The idea being we entitle them.
They have suggested or asked that we, and I don't know, Mike, if this was at the crux of your question, but that we consider land banking some of the parking depending on the mix of end users here. And if we come back and demonstrate that that mix of end users does indeed require the additional parking to be built, we would have had those spaces fully entitled through both local processes was the idea. But there'd be a condition in our planning board approval that required us to, we haven't determined which of those spaces would be the land bank spaces. I suspect this is one that would make a lot of sense, certainly from my perspective, likely from theirs as well, to include in that land bank, but have it, both permits be issued with the assumption that these parking spaces have been, or the project as depicted on the screen, has been fully designed, fully engineered, fully entitled, subject only to a demonstration of end user need for those spaces. So they have asked us to consider land banking some of the pit spaces, and we've said we would, but it does require that they be fully permitted through both processes. So to Austin's point, we have the ability to market them as available to the prospective end users here.
So considering that the commission feels that this is maximum utilization of the site, I don't know that we would be amenable to that without some sort of deeded restriction for continuation of that roadway to other portions of the parcel where there would be additional resource area impacts that are not included with this filing.
I'm not sure I follow a deeded restriction, meaning
Saying that you
we wouldn't-
cannot continue the roadway to other portions of the site, which would necessitate additional resource area impacts. They
but
would.
but if a project were to come forward, it would need to go through your permit process. And if it in fact impacted resource areas on its way down through there, that would be subject to your purview and available to be denied if appropriate through your process.
That's not sufficient, Jeff. That's not sufficient. We need assurances that that won't happen, because if this is approved, it will be maximum utilization of the property. And we've already demonstrated that you can't meet the performance standards because you'll be impacting other buffer zones.
If I may back up on the performance standard, and maybe it's just a question I need a little clarity on, but if I'm right, Brian, the 1.6 to 1 was the number we arrived at before we made the changes to particularly the parking lot on the left-hand side as you come in. Is there an expectation that other area might afford us a greater amount of resource replication up through there? Can we, or should we be looking at that and analyzing what we can bring that 1.6 number up to?
Jeff, I think so. And that was kind of my, that was kind of the second part of this discussion.
Understand that one of the assigned interests of the Wetlands Protection Act is the protection of groundwater and public water supply. And this is in a water resource district, and future development with future extension of roadways. It's not advisable for the town of Bellingham to permit further development on this site. Now, we're running up against our next hearing, and what I am going to do is I'm going to prepare a document relative to the soils that we discovered in that cul-de-sac, which we feel it qualifies as a regulated resource area, which would preclude the utilization of that in any event. So we're going to provide that for you, and we'll get it to you as soon as we can develop that. I think that,
can I ask a quick question about that?
certainly.
So with kind of the summary of what you have identified, I mean, obviously we want Brian and the team to be able to review that,
Of course.
and then, obviously conduct a field visit and either confirm what you're putting in that document or provide some kind of counter facts to it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is a hearing process. Information will be reviewed. So you've provided us with information. I think that we'll have an opportunity to provide you with information, and we can discuss it and meet in the field and it may very well be necessary.
Sure. Okay. So I know you said we're running up against the other hearing.
Yes.
So the immediate next steps would be to have you provide the document that you just referenced. We can review that. I think what I'd like to do, in the interest of just continuing to move things forward, and maybe with the commission's permission, of course, would be to share the exhibit that we are preparing with respect to some of the additional field testing that we want to do. Get confirmation on that, which is everything we've talked about in the field. It's essentially a summary of what we've already talked about in the field. But I'd like to get confirmation because we want to do that work, because it has a couple things. It's confirmation of the stormwater design, which we have a ton of data on it, but we need some confirmatory work. Secondarily, and perhaps more important, it's also related to additional mitigation areas that we're contemplating and determining the viability of those. I think that's an important part of the conversation. So I'd like to get that work going now and in between the next time that we're meeting with the commission.
So, no, that makes sense. And I'm looking now at our schedule. We only have one meeting in July, and we could potentially go to 6/28. I know that, Austin, we had discussed you notifying Ian when the soil testing was going to take place in that northwestern corner, because we're very interested to find out what's causing that perch soil condition, which is the area where you're proposing the vernal pool creation, as well as the area under the parking lot, which now you'd be proposing for infiltration, right? So you're going to have some testing done out there.
Correct, and we haven't gone forward with that yet. I have it all planned out.
Okay.
And the reason we haven't gone forward with it yet is because we as a team thought that this parking discussion had the potential to influence how that was going to shape and look. So the program that I've laid out for the additional explorations is based on this revised layout. So what I can do, provided again the commission's comfortable, is share that with Ann and then start putting a timing on that. Because I think it makes all the sense in the world. It's everything we talked about in the field at previous hearings here. But I'd like to get that work enabled, so that we continue to move that part of the discussion forward as well.
Well, that makes sense. And I would certainly like to participate in the on-site review of that.
So, okay, so I think we're going to Cliff. What was the next dates we had available for discussion, right?
Okay, well, I'm looking at 6/28, which is our next meeting, because there's only one meeting in July. And I think, will you have an opportunity to get that work performed prior to that meeting?
Potentially, but I can't speak for Brian, but one of the things that could be a discussion topic for us is if you have the ability to share with us the summary of your observations based on, what we're calling a cul-de-sac, and maybe have Brian review that document, potentially go out in the field if he needs to do that, and have that be a topic of our discussion on the 28th if we don't have field data.
I can't guarantee that we can get that done, Austin.
No.
I can't guarantee that we're gonna get that done.
Okay.
The preliminary.
Or I mean, would it be, just thinking out loud, would it be reasonable, and I'm speaking for Brian's calendar, so Brian, I apologize, but provided Brian has the ability in the next 2 weeks to get out in the field to look at that area, maybe have him do his own assessment out there, and then he could present what his observations were. We can talk about it in the public forum and have that discussion, provided you won't be able to have that document available to us. Does that feel appropriate?
Why don't we get our information?
Yeah,
I mean, you guys can do your research whenever you want, obviously. But what we'd like to do is submit what our observations are before we start having discussions on it, just so that we have the document in hand.
it would be advisable to have Brian go out, or alternatively, you can wait until we provide you with the information, Brian can review it, and then we can all go out in the field together.
Which makes sense too, right? That makes sense too. So, I mean, Jeff, here's what I'm inclined to do is, provided there's availability on the 28th, I'm inclined to continue us to the 28th. If we don't have soil testing data done, if that wetlands, then perhaps if there's not a tangible discussion item, we'll simply request a continuance, but reserve the space in the event that we have it so that we can keep kind of the momentum going forward. Is my inclination, Jeff, if you feel differently.
No, I don't feel differently. I think that makes all the sense in the world. I think we should do that. I would ask the commission to do the best they could to produce the information. It sounded like you've already been in the field and already done some of this evaluation. So we're a step behind you. We'll get Brian out there and consider this. We are 8 months into this process and have had a bunch of walks in the field and site walks in the field. So this is coming out of a little bit out of left field for us, but we're anxious to get the data, get the information, and discuss accordingly.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm looking at the 28th. I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of June 28th at 8:15.
Moved. I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, by unanimous vote.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Take care.
Mr. Chairman, it's Matt Byrne.
Hi, Matt.
Oh, Matt.
Howdy. I was sitting in limbo for rather a while there, so
We
I
didn't
missed.
let you in?
Yeah, I think I missed something tasty.
You did.
Oh,
You did. The hearing's been closed, so we really don't want to discuss a lot of what happened, but we're
Yeah.
going to ask for the soils report.
Yeah, for that interesting
The
spot.
cul-de-sac, exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Especially emphasizing the new wetland delineation methodology that DEP rolled out a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You folks post a recording of this within a
Yes.
couple of
We do.
days, right? Okay, I'll make sure to go back and review just so I get caught up to speed and can provide some support on that.
I'm so sorry, Matt. We didn't-
You know, we didn't see you there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been following the pop-ups, but I must have missed that one. Might have been because they were sharing their screen, maybe. I don't
He's a
know.
malefactor.
Mhm.
Hmm.
All right, well,
Okay.
Cliff, just a moment while we're in between. I'm having significant internet connection losses during that. Does that affect anything?
No, it should not, because what we'll be doing is the video of the meeting will be posted usually by Friday.
In fact, the UPS backing up another computer has switched several times in the last 40 minutes.
I think we're getting fluctuations in power because of the storms.
I just wanted to let you know that you're losing me here and there.
No, you're not lost.
We just got you. We can't lose you yet.
Well, I've got to run to another meeting, so given that, I will follow up with the recording on Friday, or as soon as it's posted, and check back in with you and make sure I get you what you need before.
So Matt, just before you go, if you're
Yeah.
interested, I wrote a little thing relative to the Supreme Court decision. If you're interested, I can pass it on to you.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Please. That's going to be an interesting thing to come to understand.
I think we have a handle on it.
mhm.
Oh, good. Okay. Well,
Okay.
I look forward to hearing that.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't wear camo when you're in the waiting room if you want to be seen quicker, Matt.
Yeah, I'm going to put on my safety gear next time.
Be good. Jump up and
Okay.
down.
You're right.
No.
That's it.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Good night.
Take care, Matt.
You too.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Who do we have? Okay. Spanish room. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the notice of intent for the proposed construction of a two-car detached garage and rain garden located within a 100-foot buffer zone for boarding vegetated wetlands in the outer riverfront area at Assessors Map 9, Lot 51, 73 Standish Road, Bellingham. Margaret Bacon, Civil Site Engineering, Uxbridge, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of Clifford Ansell, 73 Standish Road, Bellingham. The continuations will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, June 14th at 8:05. Apologies, we're a few minutes late. Is Margaret here? Yes, she is.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, and Clifford is here as well. Okay.
Sure. Okay, for the record, Margaret Bacon, Civil Site Engineering, and I'm here representing Clifford Ansell regarding a proposed garage there at 73 Standish Road. Now, I know at the last meeting, the commission had some comments and suggestions along with the DEP, and I think the revised plans I just submitted, I hope addresses all those comments and concerns. And just to brief, I don't know if you want me to share the screen and go over the plan.
Absolutely. Let's okay. Okay.
Can you see that?
Not yet. We're getting there.
Okay, hang tight. How's that?
Good.
We got it.
There you go.
Okay, so just to refresh, here's the proposed garage. This red over here is the amount of pavement that's going to be added. This red over here is the amount of pavement that's going to be eliminated. So I believe there's between the garage and the pavement, there's a net increase of about 840 square feet. We really relocated the rain garden, so it's over here by the side of the new garage. There's an existing shed here that's gonna be removed. So, and then I added some energy dissipators if this rain garden was ever to fill, and a little swale here with stone check dams. The client also, and we discussed, would like to put a fence up from the property line to the property line with a gate here for access. And then in the back, because there was some disturbance back here with the riverfront area, the commission made some suggestions of how to restore this area, and Mr. Ansel is all set and ready to do that. And actually, I submitted the wetland seed mix that he's going to broadcast once he scarifies the site and removes some of the isolated areas of fill. And not much fill, but there's just small little piles here and there that he's going to take care of.
Yeah, over the years.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct, correct,
materials, just like the brush that was deposited there.
correct. So
Margaret,
he's
just
all
for-
set, ready to do that.
Just for, as a point of interest, what would you estimate the date of the construction of the houses in that subdivision? Late 50s, early 60s?
I think his house was in 60 something.
Okay,
Yeah, his house was built, actually, I have it on the alternatives analysis I submitted. His house was constructed in 1967.
right around the time of the first iteration of the WPA,
Correct,
well before the riverfront. Okay.
correct.
So one of the things in order to develop the permit, Margaret, if you could provide us with the numbers to quantify the areas of reduced impact. It's something that we can put in the permit that that will probably satisfy DEP. I mean, they're looking for improvements. Technically, it's not a redevelopment project because the structure has lived there, has been there in existence for a long time, but there will be an improvement provided by the reduction in the brush and those piles. If you could quantify that, it's a number that would assist us in the development of the permit.
Okay, I did address in the alternatives analysis, the DEP did address that, whether this would be considered a redevelopment. So I rethought that, and so I agree. It probably wouldn't qualify as a redevelopment, but it still would, it meets the performance standards, with the amount of riverfront area that's on the site and the amount we're below that 10% of impact. And then also in the riverfront performance standards, there is an exemption or grandfathering of certain minor activities, provided the activity is not within any other resource area. And it goes on to say the conversion of lawn to use as accessory to existing single-family houses in existence on or before August 1996, such as decks, sheds, pools, patios, etc. And that is in part of the last submittal package that I sent.
Right.
Yep. We're looking at that. Yep.
Yeah, right down there at the very bottom.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I just kind of discovered that as I was going through all the riverfront activities. I didn't pick up on that on the first time through.
So in when we quantify the amount of riverfront impacts that we have, we appreciate that you put them here to the 0 to 100 foot riverfront area. You have impacts of 60 square feet, and then 100 to 200, 1,360 square feet for a total of 14 something. Yes, 1420. So when we write what we are replacing, I was looking to get a number in for the replacement, but I believe that these figures represent the actual impacts that you have for construction of the garage and the.
Correct.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, so it's no replacement then. I was hoping that maybe we could include some of that restoration area that Cliff Ansel is doing to restore that riverfront area, but that's not gonna work with these numbers.
Okay,
It's okay, it's okay. The bottom line is that we're getting restoration of the riverfront area. He's cleaning it up and we're getting a no disturb zone.
And we're gonna have
It's fine.
the seed mix that you specified.
Yep. Mhm.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the commission? No further questions or comments. So, Margaret, I think what we're gonna do, what we usually do in these cases is we develop the order of conditions and we continue to the next meeting. And it gives us an opportunity to prepare the order, distribute it for review, and then we open, close, and vote to issue at our next meeting. Is that okay with you?
sure. So that next meeting's 2 weeks from now?
It
Yeah.
is.
Okay, and so we don't really need to do anything else on our part?
No?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, and then, so at the next meeting, then, Cliff can expect to get the order fairly soon after that.
Yes.
As soon as we
Okay.
can sign it.
Okay, 'cause I know he's looking forward to ordering that garage and moving forward,
I
so,
get
I know.
I get it.
Yep.
But
Okay.
even if we close tonight, we still have to develop the order and we gotta, we
Sure,
have to go through the
sure, yeah, no,
process.
2 weeks is fine, that works.
Yeah.
I'm sure it does, I know Cliff's on here,
So,
And Cliff will be responsible for getting that order recorded then?
correct.
Okay,
okay. And so, in anticipation of this smooth sailing, we reserved you the 7 o'clock time.
Beautiful,
So
That's
and it shouldn't take long.
okay,
So I will entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of June 28th at 7, at which time we should vote to close the hearing and issue the prepared order of conditions.
So
Michael,
I'll second again.
Steve, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, by unanimous vote.
so what I'll do is I'll draft up some special conditions and get those out to the commission members. So you have an idea of what we discussed tonight. Okay,
Thank you, Margaret.
thank you.
thank you.
Couple.
Take care now.
You too.
Okay. We'll proceed to the next one and
Oh, should be good.
let's see.
Okay, so.
He was on for 8:30. All right. All right, we have a little bit of sad news to report. Our administrators in receipt of a letter of resignation from Brian. He's had some health issues. He's having a little difficulty finding the time. He's been a valued member and one of the people that we could always count on to attend the sidewalks, attend the meetings, and be there for signatures. And personally speaking, he will be greatly missed. While we're waiting to start the next continuation, a question for Neil and for Mike. Do you folks use your town emails at all?
I do not.
And you do not need it.
Apparently not.
Okay,
I as well, I meant to get back to you and say the same thing, which is basically, I'll do without.
Okay. so
It will
I'm-
pain me greatly not to have a third website I'd have to refer to, but I just feel two is good enough. Thanks.
All right, I will let Karen know that you do not want those emails.
okay.
And Steve, we were supposed to get you one, and I don't know if you ever got a town email.
I did receive it. It's been activated. It's a little cumbersome adding to some of the other devices that I monitor on.
Yes.
So although this wasn't the intent,
Mhm.
I'm finding myself not using it.
Okay,
And I've been relying on the Outlook address that I created because I can add it to iPads and backup laptops and I get it in all locations where the town one I cannot.
okay.
Makes sense.
So do you want to discontinue that then? Or do you
yeah,
want?
something- Yeah, I'll say yes, let's discontinue it. I feel bad because I only just requested it, but it didn't pan out. So yes, let's discontinue it.
Okay, thank you.
That's quite all right.
All right, good.
Okay. The applicant's representative still has not shown up, but so we have another item of business. I don't know if I'm sure folks will remember we had order of resource area delineation for a wetland delineation at New England Country Club. And it is up for expiration. And Bond v. Holmes has requested an extension to the ORAD. I believe that our administrator has submitted the criteria for extension to the commission. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I don't remember getting that, but was that just recently resent? I mean, we've seen it in the past because I think we've had other ORAD requests for extensions, but was there a recent email that came out that I missed?
Probably
Should
a
have
week
been on
ago.
the Dropbox.
Oh, in the Dropbox. Okay, well, I'll go from memory. Reasons for legal reasons to extend include failure to commence work because of the inability to obtain other necessary permits. That's number one. Number two, failure to commence construction due to legal actions that have yet to be resolved. That's two. The third one is work has commenced but not been completed because additional time has been required. Those are the criteria for extension.
There's a couple more.
Oh, there's a couple more. Well, I did okay with two of them.
Mhm.
If work has been done in violation of an order of conditions. Or if the order of resource area delineation is no longer accurate. That's the criteria for extension. So Mr. Bonvy filed the orders is June 17th. It's set to expire. No work has commenced. No attempt has been made to file with any additional for any additional permits with local or state boards. There are no lawsuits involved, really. The only reason they want an extension that I can see is that they just never got around to doing anything with the property.
Excuse me.
Oh, hello.
Hello. My name is Stephanie. I'm actually representing Strong Point Engineering, who we
I'm
submitted.
glad you're here.
So we've had a lot of design challenges working through the project, but part of the reason that we did request the extension is there's actually two different ORADs for the project. This ORAD is for the 10 acres. That's basically the entrance kind of in the access. And the ORAD for the rest of the project, I think we have another 9 or 10 months.
Yes.
So kind of we're hoping that the design challenges will be kind of worked through finally. But what we would hate is to finally get through into the design portion with an ORAD functioning for the majority of the site and the ORAD for the most important access part to have expired and gone away and have significant issues.
So based on, you heard my conversation about reasons for extension.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so how would you justify the extension request with those requirements?
Well, I mean, we haven't finished, well, we haven't gone into permitting yet, so it kind of that one, because we haven't received permits yet, because I guess we haven't asked for them.
Okay, because no permits have been required or requested. You know, we do see this on occasion, and people will file the ANRAD in an attempt to use it as a placeholder for future development. And, you know, the regs are pretty clear. 3 years is sufficient time to at least do something. And when nothing's done, you know, it gives the applicant additional time to complete the design and then come back and refile and have a design ready to go. That's my opinion.
I don't disagree. I'm just doing what I was told to do.
You're the messenger. And
Yep.
We're not shooting you.
Chair,
Yes.
yeah, after 3 years of nothing, I remember walking that site for that NRED, and I'd forgotten it's been 3 years. Time flies,
Yes.
pandemic, whatever, but yeah, what also bothers me a bit is that literally the 11th hour, you know, 3 days before, I don't know when the.
No.
The request for extension was received some time ago. How long ago?
Yes.
It was timely.
Yes, it was, May 17th.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it was because.
That makes me feel a little bit better, but I mean, if nothing's been happened, all they have to do is come back in. It's not like the project has been turned down. They can't proceed to develop if they ever move forward and overcome these hurdles that Stephanie was describing, that they're still challenged with. If she said they were almost done with all those and that the goal line is literally days or a week or two in sight, you know, then maybe possibly, but I'd say, you know, let them come back when they're ready and when they think they've got the project viable. It's, you know, the resource area delineation probably would be not hard to redo, and I would ask the administrator and the chair if this causes any extra burden to the commission by saying, no, at this point in time, we don't want to grant an extension.
what I would suggest to the applicant's representative is that they utilize those ORADs, the two ORADs, as a basis for design.
Yep.
And at such time that the applicant determines that he's ready to move forward, he will have a reasonable idea of the locations of the regulated resource areas. And then, you know, at the time he applies for permits for construction of whatever happens to go there, you know, at that time, he can also include the wetland delineation.
Okay.
Okay. That being the case, I'll entertain a motion to deny the request for extension.
So moved.
Second.
Stephen, Michael, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, by unanimous vote. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, no skin off my back.
Oh, I get it. And no hard feelings. Have a pleasant evening.
You too.
Okay. So, all right, we're gonna proceed with the last continuation.
We doing Elbow Street.
Yeah, we're gonna do Elbow Street. We have,
Does someone have access to the Elbow Street plan that you could put up?
out of the Dropbox.
Yeah, I could if I was given permission to share.
Bear with me a moment. I think I probably have them.
Okay,
All right. so-
I will read the advertisement while we're scrambling to do that because the applicant's representative is not here.
You're gonna have to make them the a sharer too.
Oh, yeah.
I can only choose everybody or nobody.
Oh,
Well,
I-
this one, everybody is just us, so you could do that.
well, I gotta tell you, I'm reveling in this power.
Is there a particular plan you want? I have,
It's the one for 80 Elbow.
80 elbows.
yes, there were several in the Dropbox, several documents.
Oh,
Okay.
it's just the
The
plan?
plan.
So there's an NOI, but then there's the NOI plan.
Okay.
That's the
That's a
one.
Word doc.
Okay,
It's
the
not what you
Bellingham
want.
Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and a notice of intent for the installation of a Title V septic system to replace a failing system located in the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands and within the flood zone at Assessor's Map Parcel 953380 Elbow Street, Bellingham. Paul T. Simone, Medway, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of Daniel and Louise Forrestal, 80 Elbow Street, Bellingham. The continuations will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, June 14th at 8:30. Okay.
I have the drawing opened if I can get share
I
permission.
think you should be able to share your screen. Yeah, no, co-host, he should be able to do it.
There we go.
All right, we can figure this out. No,
Okay.
here we go.
Excellent.
There you go.
Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
Oh, I see someone else uses Bluebeam.
Yes.
Okay.
Presentation here.
I guess I will be doing the presentation on behalf of the applicant. This is a failed septic system. It was actually a cesspool. And so what we're going to do here is we're
Do you want me to
creating.
reposition it all, Cliff?
No, that looks good. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, that's good.
Does everyone know where Elbow Street is?
No, just between Hand Street and.
That's between the shoulder and the wrist.
Yeah, I was
That's it.
just showing Mike that, but my camera's not on.
Yeah, I see it, I see it.
Okay,
I don't know, I'll be aside, but go ahead.
you know where Payne Street is?
Is
When
there-
you come down Payne Street
is there a
and you
look-
go by the entrance to New England Country Club toward Brooks Corner. Oh, there's a locust map.
On this plan, so Steve.
Steve
who's
can
up?
slide it up a little more,
Pocket, right?
keep going, keep going, keep going, vicinity map, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Move towards,
And now
Right.
go, move it to the left, the
no,
other,
no, that's.
I'll go left.
there you
There,
go.
okay, there it is. There's the locus. Thank you.
Good. So you can see Payne Street, which runs almost diagonally across the top of the screen. Elbow Street is the road to the bottom. The entire neighborhood, that's right, the entire neighborhood is within the floodplain. So when the notice of intent was filed, the administrator at my direction contacted the applicant's representative to inform him that he would need to provide compensatory storage at incremental elevations in accordance with the performance standards for work in the floodplain. So he came up with a narrative saying, well, you know, there's not much we can do. We're minimizing the amount of fill that's required. And upon site review and further review of the plans, we realized that the system was going to be installed at grade. So it looked like they had addressed all their issues, except for the fact that the portion of the leaching field was within 50 feet to a regulated resource area right there. You can see the green, there's the 50. That requires a local upgrade from DEP under Title V. And it slipped through the cracks. They were not aware of that. But my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that they've gone to the Board of Health and been granted the local upgrade for this system.
Yes.
Yes. So finally, all the ducks are in a row and we can get the failing septic system replaced.
What do you mean when you say local upgrade as opposed to local waiver?
Well,
Yeah.
it's a Title V term, and what it means is, it's an upgrade from Title V. Title V requires 4 feet of separation to groundwater. Occasionally, we'll get a local upgrade. There it is. He had it almost. Steve had it.
It's more of a
Local
downgrade. It's more of
Well,
a downgrade, really, isn't it?
It's DEP solid.
I mean, we're
waste.
in double speak here.
There it is, local upgrade, approval and deed restrictions, okay. Yes, it makes sense to me that it would be a downgrade.
That area not on sewer?
Wait a minute, that says no variances.
Cliff,
What?
he filed that form. that's-
Yeah.
They filed, Paul DeSimone, I called Paul and I told him he needed to get the local upgrade from the Board of Health. I also spoke with Vin, who's representing the Board of Health now because we don't have a Board of Health agent. And I told Vin that this system did not have a local upgrade and that we couldn't possibly close the hearing without that. So they were back, Paul DeSimone contacted DEP and DEP agreed. DEP told him if he filled out, I don't have the name of the form. It's a form the state uses for local upgrades. He completed the form. I believe it was in your Dropbox.
Oh.
The Board of Health received that and approved the system with that request. So it's not on this plan. It's a separate document.
So
Is it here?
that
And
might be it.
Okay,
Yeah, I see it.
okay.
There it is.
This is the form that was completed. Thank you. It's helpful.
So are you,
13 good setback to 29, I got it.
are you proposing that we move forward on this without an accurate plan?
No, we have
We
an
have an
accurate plan. This is the supplemental information that DEP has granted the local upgrade. It doesn't show on the plan, but it doesn't change the construction of the system or the prohibitions that are attached to it.
It is perfectly legal.
I'm getting a notice for an admit.
Oh.
Should,
Oh, maybe it's Paul.
should I admit?
Yes.
Yep, disappeared.
I did it.
Okay.
It's
That might be
Paul.
him. Hello?
Hi, you guys there?
Yeah, we're
Yeah, oh,
waiting
yeah,
for
we're-
you.
Okay, I
We
just
started
waited
the
to get
meeting
on.
without you.
That's okay. I thought it was at 8:50. Am I late?
Well, I think I asked you to be here at 8:30, but that's okay. You're here now. That's all that matters.
Oh, sweet.
So-
Sometimes you guys are too good to me.
So,
Okay,
Paul,
so
just to recap.
Right.
You know, we went over the fact that the system's being installed at grade. There's no alteration of the floodplain. So we're good there. We are within the 50-foot to a regulated resource area. And we were discussing the form for local upgrade. So you filled that form out and you received approval from DEP.
yeah, I haven't heard anything back from them. We're all set with the Board of Health, I understand. When we did this type of system, okay, so this is an alternative system.
It's an alternative.
The difference between this and a conventional system is that it's only 2 feet to the water table instead of its typical 4.
Mhm.
And the purpose for this type of system is to actually clean the effluent better than stone and pipe and stone, which would be a conventional system. I wouldn't stand at the end with a glass, but it's supposed to be clean water coming out and going into the soil. And
So does
the
that
perk
mean-
rate here was so slow that filtrationing down to the water table is going to take a long time anyway. So it's going to be filtered out pretty good by the time it gets there. It should be pretty clean. As far as the setback to the within the 50-foot buffer, even though that's a DEP rule, and of course the 4-foot separation is a DEP rule, these alternative systems, they were approved to go into these areas like that. So we requested the setback. I was told we didn't really need to by, the engineer that actually did the calcs for me on this type of system, but we submitted it anyways. And as you can see, if you're looking at the lot, there's no place else to go with this thing. And because the soil is so lousy and so slow perking, that it's a pretty big system. It's not small.
Yeah,
Very
so the
big.
size of the leach field is probably twice the size of a conventional system, you think?
No, it's actually smaller than a conventional. A conventional system would have went into the 25-foot buffer.
So
It was.
how does this?
It was. Go ahead, Cliff.
It's 2 feet.
So on the plan, the form that you submitted, it looks like you got a 29-foot instead of 50-foot waiver, basically, on the form it says. To the resource area, is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, the next page, I think, Steve.
Yeah, the 50
So
foot
the-
comes right through the system, Mike.
Yeah, right, no, I understand
Yes,
that,
you
but
can
I'm seeing number 3, it says reduction of required 50-foot setback from the resource area to a 29-foot with alternate. So that's the other thing, in addition to the 2-foot separations, because of the different system, the way I hear Paul explaining it, they also are allowed to be much closer, in this case, 29 feet instead of 50. Is that right?
Yeah, because it's a conventional system, those setbacks really don't affect this. I mean, the purpose for this is to have clean effluent coming out of this thing. Again, I wouldn't stand there with a glass and try it, but it's
No,
supposed to be pretty clean.
Yeah.
You know, but a conventional system, we tried to put a bed in here and it would have been about maybe 10 to 15 feet off the wetlands. These alternative systems are designed smaller because of what they do. So again, this is, this was it's a geomat. It's new technology, it's approved by the state, but it's supposed to get the job done. And that's all we could fit in here. If we would have went bigger, we would have asked for a lot more waivers.
Okay.
25% reduction and stuff like that. But this was the best fit. This was the best system for the fit here.
So, Paul, based on your field experience, would you guess that this lot had previously been filled over what was a much more expansive wetland system? Is that why?
You know, I wasn't out there doing the testing, Steve was, but he told me that when they dug that test hole, which is right in the middle of the system,
Yeah,
that OTH1,
yeah,
that they were hitting peat down below.
that's it.
So, you know, of course, peat to me, that's a swamp.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
You know?
all of those
And that
houses.
was down at 64 inches. If you look at if you look on the plan over to the left where it says percolation testing soil test pit, you can see down on that chart there that C2 is peat, and that was
Yeah,
at
there it is,
64 inches. So that's pretty deep.
Was that just one time that they hit that, or did they hit more than once? In other words, was it a?
Well, they only did that one test hole, and you can see where it is. It's up around the 101 contour, right next to the house.
So that
and the
would,
lawn. Go ahead.
that tells us, you had weeping at 38 inches. 10 YR 46, just above that.
Yeah.
We suspect that all of these houses were built on a swamp many years ago. They just filled the swamp,
Yeah.
and built the houses.
I agree.
This is
Totally
what we're
agree.
dealing with now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't know down the street. I mean, we did one down at the other end, which was pretty good. I mean, it was pretty good material, but it wasn't near the wetlands and it wasn't in the floodplain either.
Right.
No,
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a
agree. This
question?
is most-
Certainly.
Go ahead.
Is there any remaining activity by the existing cesspool, and does it interact with the new system at all?
No, that will be, there should be a note on here somewhere on how to
Remove
abandon
and
that.
fill.
What they usually do is they pump it out first, and then they'll fracture the bottom and fill it with sand. That's one method. Or they'll rip it out completely and get rid of it and take it off site. How the contractor is going to deal with it, we don't know yet. But there's two methods to get rid of them, and you'll use one or the other. And that will be
Okay.
inspected by the Board of Health during construction.
I think the answer's right here.
Yep. Question, please, and remove. Okay. Perfect. I
We
would
gave
hate-
this to Eric. He does these conventional systems, these alternative systems. He tried a different type, didn't fit. This was like about the fourth try on fitting something in there that was reasonable. I mean, it wasn't one of these just throw it on the plan. This was kind of thought out pretty good.
It's a major improvement over what was there.
Oh, definitely, absolutely.
I don't know, I mean, it's been reviewed by the Board of Health. It's been engineered to meet standards that are new, but that aren't our standards. They're DEP Title V standards. I think that the administrator has distributed a draft order of conditions. I think that it would be in all of our interests to close the hearing and move forward and let the people repair their failed system. I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing and sign and issue the order of conditions.
So moved.
Stephen,
Second.
Ariane, any discussion?
Only if Paul stands at the end of the glass.
No, I'm, you can't convince me. You can't pay me enough.
Okay, all in
Oh, all
favor?
right, never mind.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, by unanimous vote. All right. So we have to
All right,
arrange.
guys, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
we need
Oh,
to,
Paul, that'll go to you for recording.
Yeah, go ahead and send it. I'll record them. Sure.
Thank you.
all right. We need.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Oh, wait. Hey, I had one question for you real quick. In the order conditions, what type of erosion control? Because these guys want to get going right away.
Well, they have to get their order first to record it.
No, I know, but they want to at least get the
I
erosion
think
control
you
down.
specified wattles with silt fence.
Yeah, Steve just zoomed in.
Draw
on-
water with sulfur. Yeah, but I didn't know if you're going to change that in the order or not. I
It's
didn't know
fair-
if you want to do a mulch tube or silt fence or.
Well, I'm not a big fan of wattles. You had.
No, I know
straw-
that. I know.
Yeah, you had straw wattles, backed by entrenched, silt fence.
And that,
But you had straw wattles to be, staked. 5 feet on center, that's not gonna work. You gotta stake them closer than that.
that was in the order.
But the silt
So-
fence is gonna be important.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I mean. That's why, because what I want to do is we want to, once I get the order, I'm going to stake it for them, and they're going to put that down right away. I just want to make sure we're clear on what they're putting in over there.
Yeah, and they'll have to.
We can do a
contact-
mulch tube. We can do a mulch tube with the silt fence. I have no problem with that.
What, it's whatever you wanna do, as long as with that silt fence in there.
Mulch,
All right,
mulch
all right.
tubes are an improvement over the wattles.
Oh, yeah.
The wattles will
Okay.
work because of the silt fence. But whatever you
Yep.
want to do, the administrator
All
has
right.
the right to make changes in the field. You'll let her know. We'll inspect the sediment erosion control before
Yeah,
construction.
because they're gonna at least get that in right away, the erosion control, so they
Okay.
can get, then when the order conditions is recorded, we can get going.
Okay.
All right, if you want to send it to me, if you want me to pick it up, Ian.
Uh,
I have a question.
Oh,
Yes.
This is, I just noticed this. This has an ejector pump in the system.
Yep.
How does that cover for power outages?
Well, there's an alarm on the house. You can actually it's shown there. The tank. See how this works is you got a 1,500 gallon tank. When that fills, and it takes about 3 days to fill it, and then what it does is it goes into the pump chamber, and it goes in about maybe 6 inches to 8 inches before it pumps out. That 1,000 gallons gives you another 2 or 3 days storage. So if there's a power outage and nothing works, you can still flush the toilet because the water will work, and it will go into the tank and then go into the pump chamber. And you'll have a couple of days to fill the pump chamber full before it actually starts leaching back into the house. So the pump chamber is 1,000 gallons, which gives you a couple of day capacity. So if you have your power outage for at least a day or two, you shouldn't have any problems. If it goes beyond that, then you'll probably have to call someone to come down and pump the tank.
And that would be the main tank or the pump tank?
Both of them.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the late question.
No, it's okay.
That's okay.
Creek without a pump,
I'm sorry?
then you'd be up the creek without a pump if they're out of power. Of course,
Okay.
is
So-
the alarm electrically powered? Does it have to have a battery backup? Because what's the point if you lose the power, as Steve said, if you don't know?
Well, there is on those alarm systems, there is a battery backup for the alarm. So the power goes out, the alarm will still go off if the power's out and the tank fills beyond that 8 inch or 6 inch or whatever we get designed on this, that alarm will go off, regardless of power outage or not.
So if it is 100% full, does the backup go into the house or into the surrounding property
It will back up into the house.
through here?
It will come right back up into the house. Then you'll have a mess.
Okay.
7:45. Right. We already closed this hearing. Right?
Yes, this hearing's been closed.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. We need to, after we have one more hearing, it's a continuation request, then we'll see what we can do about signatures.
All right, let me know if you want me to pick it up or you want to mail it, just let me know.
I'll be in touch, Paul. Thanks.
All right, Ann, thank you. And thank you, guys.
Okay.
Take care.
All right, the Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the notice of intent with the proposal to construct 12 3-unit townhomes, stormwater management system, septic system, and grading within a 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands and within estimated habitat located at the Assessors Map 59, Parcel 60A, Blackstone Street and North Street, Bellingham. Ryan Racine, Goddard Consulting, Northborough, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of John Masujian, Raven Homes, Northborough, Mass. The continuations will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, June 14th at 8:45. So this is a project that is a buffer zone project for us, but they're proposing 12 3-unit townhomes on a very small parcel. The planning board has expressed displeasure with this, and the applicant is meeting with local homeowners in an attempt to try to come up with a more amenable development. So we have nothing yet. We don't know where they're proceeding with this. It's going to require, I would imagine, a revision. And along with that revision, it will need peer review for the stormwater management system, provided that they stay completely out of the 50-foot buffer zone, which the original proposal did. Looking ahead, there's no way that they're going to be able to have these revisions done and go out for peer review by our next meeting. So I will entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of July 26th at 7:45.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Quick question, Mr. Chair. I believe I had asked in one of the previous meetings when this was up, my concern about knowing the plan which they claim that they have. I think that the applicant claimed that they were working on. They got approval from New England Natural Heritage for the turtle protection during the construction. My question was whether they had a plan for after the construction is over and they remove the fence to keep the turtles from being mowed to pieces by this rather dense development. I haven't heard anything. Have you?
Well, I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to wait to see what the development is actually going to be.
Sure. Yeah.
And then we'll ask those questions because the development's going to be changed.
Okay.
It's a
that's fine. I just
legitimate
want to make sure
question.
you hadn't heard anything since then.
No, and
I would have been shocked if you had.
And usually the process is that they have to develop a conservation management plan, and that comes with an actual narrative, a description, has all kinds of restrictions and all things they need to adhere to, and it comes along with a plan, and that gets recorded. So it takes a little bit of time. And this whole process goes with the commission's input or whoever wants to represent the commission to protect the interest of the habitat out there.
It goes to who? To go reviewed by the National Heritage again, once they've got the plan?
Yes, the applicant works with Natural Heritage, and if we are holding, the Conservation Commission is holding the CR, we have input to the development of that plan.
Because I thought that they had said they already had submitted and gotten approval of a plan.
Okay, so
maybe-
that was just to allow them to be able to build something on that site and have enough area protected for the habitat issues.
Yeah, pick up the turtles and put them on the other side of the fence that they're gonna put up. Okay, that was it. Okay, all right. I just want to make sure there wasn't something beyond that.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. Thanks. I'll wait and see what the plan changes. I know some of the neighbors have spoken to me, asking me if we know anything more about it, and I said, I think that meeting the planning board suggested they have with the citizens and the residents in the area still has to happen. I haven't heard that it's been scheduled yet.
I think it was happening today or this evening.
Really? Oh, okay, cool.
You missed it.
I guess I did. I'll have to ask Katie, Cameron, whatever her last name is, about that. Yeah,
All right.
okay.
That planning board meeting was a real spicy event.
Oh, you viewed it?
Yeah, I was online for that one.
Was it today?
No, not the one you just mentioned,
Oh,
a
the
couple
first
weeks ago.
Last one, yeah, the last one, the only one that I think they've done, like, when, yeah, the planning board told them to go back and talk to the, yeah, I saw that too, yeah.
Would you say the meeting was a little spicy?
Oh,
The chairman was quite direct, and they were not happy. Neither were the townspeople, and they made it clear.
some of my neighbors were very vocal. They were right there, some of my next door neighbors, and they basically said right to the developer, you haven't come back with anything new. You're basically just asking for the same exact stuff. You haven't listened to anything that we've been
In
saying.
fact, I think the statement was made and trying to shove it through the system, words to that effect.
Steve, when you were at that meeting, was WS on that meeting? Did you see that hearing? Because WS is telling us that the planning board's okay with their project. With the exception of traffic.
Well, boy, there's a gross disconnect there.
Yes, there is.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yes.
Because what we're hearing from the planning board is they're very unhappy with the project.
Yeah, because you were talking to the planner, correct?
Yes, the planner said there's no need for that satellite parking. And yet we heard representations made that the planning board has already decided that it's a done deal, and that it's perfectly acceptable.
Part of the confusion, I believe, arises with the peer reviewer. What applicants fail to understand, or maybe they want to understand, is that they believe that the peer reviewer is the one who's going to permit the project. The peer reviewer is there in an advisory fashion and to offer advice to the planning board. The planning board, Conservation Commission are the ones that permit the actual project. This evening I heard that well, the peer reviewer said was perfectly fine with whatever they were.
The layout of the parking area.
And the point is that the peer reviewer, BSC, is not issuing the permit, it's the planning board.
And so the parking area may meet engineering criteria, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it meets permitting criteria. And so when you hear, as far as I'm concerned, that's a misrepresentation, but.
And without reopening the discussion again, because we really can't, I know, I just want to be clear, when they were talking about land banking, I didn't miss them saying what they would have to do is also at the same time do all the restoration mitigation plans at the same time, because you can't later on put the parking lots in and not mitigate for them because you already developed the rest of the site. You already have to have that accounted for.
But you also can't say, well, we're going to develop this, and then down the road, if we want to expand, then you'll review it and either approve or deny, because both us and Executive Office of Environmental Affairs under the MEPA process have something called project segmentation, where you have to evaluate and consider all environmental impacts associated with the property, and they're not doing that. I mean, there are a variety of things that they're just glossing over here, but again.
Cliff, if I can ask for a phraseology clarification, during the conversation earlier, it was said it was the site was at capacity, and then one time was beyond capacity or utilization, sorry. Where is our position? Is it at or beyond?
Well, as a matter of personal import, I'm thinking that when you can't meet the performance standards for replication because you're impacting other resource areas, you have exceeded capacity.
Exceeded, you're beyond.
You are beyond, and the only way to rectify that is to eliminate the satellite parking area. But
Or other impacts to the equivalent amount, which, I mean, does anyone really want to walk all the way from that parking lot to the building?
no,
No,
that thing,
no,
that parking lot
that's-
is for one purpose and one person, one purpose only, and it's to provide access in the future to additional portions of the property or other properties that abut that they might have an interest in the future. That's what it's for.
And Steve, just so you're aware, we have had the warehouse complex on the corner of Maple and High Street. The
Amazon.
Amazon warehouse, not the Victory warehouse. You know, they came in with they could not meet the stormwater performance standards due to the size of the project. And they had to significantly reduce the size of the footprint of the buildings to be able to meet the performance standards. So they were looking for waivers to not meet the performance standards on stormwater. And we hung firm, and they ended up having to, there's only two things that can happen. Either the project has to get smaller or the land has to get bigger.
Right, and I'm fully behind that personally.
You can't grow the land. So the project has to right size to the property and the soil and wetland conditions, and so that everything works together.
And Michael hinted at that tonight, correct?
Not to be too subtle about it, but yeah, I didn't think the planning board had brought it up, but I wanted to have them say that because that's the elephant in the room. It's like, okay, what will it take to make the project small enough to fit on the site environmentally and planning board wise pass? And
Make it smaller.
They don't
If
want to
you
go down that road.
recall,
Yeah, and losing 14 parking spaces isn't going to cut it.
if you recall in an earlier hearing, when we first told them that they should eliminate the cul-de-sac and the lower parking area, and they said, well, we may not have enough parking for future needs. We made the suggestion that, of course you do, you reduce the footprint of your building and create more parking. And it was ignored. So,
Right.
I mean, this is one of these situations where people are they're not going to hear what they don't want to hear, and they're going to believe what they want to believe. So,
I had a question related to that. Are we able to like restrict uses of a property?
I'm sorry.
Like, are we able to restrict uses of a property in the future or require?
No. Planning or zoning might
like
be
a
able to,
RCRA
but not
tier
us.
3?
No, that's why we want them to eliminate that and to put a deed restriction, or at the very least, put a deed restriction at the end of the cul-de-sac. But we have some information that might be problematic for them on the cul-de-sac, so.
Well, Cliff, you hinted at it today. They have no intended end user. It's a spec building. So they're trying to maximize their marketability.
Exactly, and if I were on the planning board, I'd say, are you proposing a warehouse or something else? Well, we don't know. We'll go away. Come back,
Yeah,
when you know
right.
what you are proposing. How can we plan when we don't know what you are planning?
Almost go away until you get a customer
There
that
you go.
owns a building.
Yeah.
And then we'll build to need.
All right, so look, we need to come up with signature times and dates. We don't have a lot of folks left here. We need to get that order for Elbow Street signed so people can fix their failed system. What do we have here for?
I'm available all day Friday, that's it.
What time Friday?
Anytime you guys want, 9:30, 10, if you don't have sidewalks, that's fine, whatever time you get in.
We're gonna have some sidewalks on Friday, but it might be raining.
Is anyone available on Saturday?
I am.
I can do Monday morning, Ann.
If Saturday is better, I can come down Saturday too, that's fine.
Well, we
Tell
can
me
get
what
two
time.
people on Saturday. We need one more person to come on Saturday. We can do it Saturday morning at 9 o'clock.
I could do Friday.
All right, Ariane can do Friday. That would give us 4. Two on Saturday and one on Friday. What time, Ariane?
Anytime after lunch, really, during/after lunch, so like 11:45 on,
How about noon?
How about noon?
that works.
Perfect. Noon on Friday.
Mike, if it's easier for you to come on Friday, you can do that.
I can do that too. That's fine. I'll shoot for Friday at noon too, just be.
I could make 8 AM again, Ann, on Friday, but not noon.
I understand. Well,
Cause I gotta get to Brockton.
Yeah. Let's do Saturday. We'll do Saturday at 9. You can do that,
so that would give us one.
Steve?
two-
Saturday at 9?
Yeah, oh, yeah, yes.
Perfect.
Okay,
But that will give
Eggs,
us.
bacon, home fries.
Center Cafe, there you go.
We'll work for food.
All right. So.
Now, on Saturday, where am I going?
So, lower, parking lot, lower entrance. Is
At
that
the
what you
town
came in
hall?
last time? At the municipal?
Where I parked last time and went in the, I
Yeah,
understand.
In the bottom.
I think so.
Okay.
You came in
The lower
lower
entrance.
So you would look at the parking lot outside your office window.
That's
or, you know, I may just be outside in the parking lot. if
Okay.
it's nice.
Because you
Okay.
get the better view.
we don't want to miss you.
At 9
I
o'clock.
have a thing before we go, if that's what you're trying to do. I was looking at these aerials for the Elbow Street property, and it looks like the property across the street that abuts the Peters River has been, like, as of spring of this year, filling up to the riverbank. And I could share my screen if you give me permission.
Oh, you can send it along
What
across
she
this.
wants to share now.
Oh, I wonder if it's Payne Street.
Well, if you
Oh,
allow
I
her to
got
share,
alert.
you'll find out.
Oh, hold
Yeah.
on.
Okay, can you all see that?
Payne Street. Absolutely. So let me tell you what's occurred here. This property was in the hands of the plants for 70 or 80 years. And recently they came to Ian and suggested that they wanted to put senior townhouses in there.
It was recent.
Back?
A couple, well, I mean, recently,
A few years.
3 years for us, a few years ago is recent.
Okay.
So, the whole property is in the floodplain. So when the LaPlants realized that they were not going to be able to develop it, they sold it to the current owners. And the current owners moved in there, not realizing what the constraints of the property were, but also moving back in the area. Is this my cursor? Can people see this?
I see.
No.
Okay, this
Mhm.
area of it's treed was a dump. And when I say dump, I mean, it was literally a family landfill. And so the people bought it, and folks up on Payne Street were calling incessantly about alterations and operating a business and all of these violations. And as it turns out, they were LaPlants, and they didn't like the fact that people were in there moving stuff around. Ian and I have been out there a couple of times, and we saw the enormous piles of trash. And I'm talking about room-sized rugs that had been buried for 30 years, and car parts and toilets and sinks and metal debris and waste. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. What you see there, there was stuff that was actually buried. And what happened was they started pulling that out. And then as they pulled the material out, they were putting wood chips on top of the voids that they were creating. So we talked to them about that, tell them that they shouldn't really be doing that, that they can pull out the waste and the trash and the debris, but they really shouldn't be filling it in because it's floodplain, and they had agreed to remove some of the material that had been placed there. And, you know, at some point, we're gonna have to go back down there and take a look at it. But this is a situation where they inherited a real mess there, and it was not of their own creation. They're trying to fix it. It's all in the riverfront. It's all in the floodplain, and it was a disgusting mess. So.
Somebody
this is
somebody didn't do their due diligence on the site before purchasing.
The one
Yeah,
that-
so we got a phase one.
They got a good deal. on
they
it.
got a good deal. And, you know, wow, we can't believe we bought the 7 acres of
Yeah,
land for such a low price.
like I said, it's like a free kitten.
Yeah, it haunts you the rest of its life.
So
So
the-
anyway, yeah,
Right.
we're working with them. We're aware of it, Ariane. They have, however, performed some valuable services because they've removed half a dozen windfalls right out of the Peters River channel, which was welcome, and dragged them up onto the riverbank and cut them up and remove and hauled them away. So, you know, we're watching it.
Good to know.
Okay. Are we done?
I think so.
Awesome. Thank you
Motion
for
to
your
adjourn.
attendance, and
So moved.
stay tuned. Adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we'll see you 9 o'clock Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Happy
everybody.
Friday.
Have a
Take
good
care now.
night.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay.